Can I come in?
You're not welcome here. Just accept that and leave.
In.
I brought flowers for Mother's Day, but she wouldn't let me in. You're not welcome here. For months later, I bought a house and threw a party. They stormed over yelling, "How dare you pretend to be poor?" My answer silenced them. "Well, let's go. My name is Romalie. I'm 32 and I got a phone call that changed everything. It was from my Aunt Maris, who I hadn't talked to in a few months but always had a good relationship with. "Romalie, honey, I need to talk to you about something," she said, sounding worried. "I had this really disturbing dream last night about your parents. I know you haven't spoken to them in years, but I think you should try to make peace with your family." Aside, my aunt was the only family member I still talked to, and she knew the whole story about why I'd cut contact with my parents and siblings 10 years ago. "Aunt Maris, I don't know if that's a good idea. Please, Romalie, just think about it. Mother's Day is coming up. Maybe that would be a good time to reach out." I didn't really want to do it, but for my aunt's sake, I was willing to consider it. She'd always been good to me, and if it would give her peace of mind, maybe I could try. But to understand why this was such a big deal, I need to go back 10 years. I was 22 and had just graduated college with a degree in investment management. I'd landed my first job at an investment company and was living in a small rented apartment trying to build my career. Then my grandmother died. She was my dad's mom and she'd always been kind to me. When the will was read, it turned out she'd left the family house to her 3 sons, my dad and his 2 brothers, who sold it and split the money. But the really important part was that she'd left $47,000 to each of her 6 grandchildren. My older brother, Tobin, got $47,000. My older sister, Lida, got $47,000. I got $47,000. And my 3 cousins each got the same amount. It seemed fair and equal. 3 days after the will reading, my mom called me. "Romalie, come over for dinner tonight. The whole family will be here." When I got to my parents' house, Tobin and Lida were already there with their serious faces on. I should have known something was up. "Sit down, Romalie," Mom said. "We need to discuss something important. Your sister is getting married in 4 months. That's great. Congratulations, Lida." Lida didn't even smile. "Thanks. But we have a problem. The wedding is going to be expensive." Mom jumped in. "We think you should give your inheritance money to your sister for her wedding." I literally couldn't speak for a few seconds. "What?" "Lida needs a beautiful wedding, and $47,000 would make it perfect," Mom continued. "But that's my money, Grandma left it to me." "Don't be selfish," Dad said. "Family helps family." But Tobin got $47,000 too. And so did our cousins. Why should I be the one to give mine up? "Because Lida needs it more than you do, Mom." I stood up. "No, I'm not giving up my inheritance. That money is mine, and I'm going to use it for my future." Lida's face turned red. "You're such a greedy brat. If you don't give me that money, you're not invited to my wedding." "Fine by me. I'm not going to be blackmailed." That's when Dad exploded. "Get out of this house. You're selfish and greedy, and we don't want anything to do with you anymore." I was shocked. Known my parents always treated me differently than my siblings, but this was beyond anything I'd expected. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious," Mom said. "Don't come back here until you're ready to do the right thing." I left without another word. I was hurt and angry, but I wasn't going to give in to their demands, and they meant what they said. After that dinner, none of them contacted me. Not once. I waited for weeks, thinking someone would call to apologize or at least try to work things out. But the phone never rang. I tried a couple times to reach out. I sent birthday texts to my parents and siblings, but they never replied. After a few months of being ignored, I stopped trying. Meanwhile, I took that $47,000 and invested it in a medical startup that was just getting off the ground. I researched it carefully and believed in what they were doing. 4 years later, that startup went public and my investment was worth $1.9 million. I didn't stop there. I took some of those profits and invested in an artificial intelligence company that was developing neural networks. I kept working at my investment firm, but I was also building my own portfolio on the side. After another 5 years, my total net worth hit $9.2 million. And through all of this success, my family never knew. They cut me off completely. So, they had no idea what I was doing with my life or how well things were going for me. Which brings me back to Aunt Maris's phone call. Mother's Day was 2 weeks away, and I decided maybe it was time to try one more time. I bought a beautiful bouquet of flowers and drove to my childhood home on Rowan Street. I hadn't been there in 10 years. It looked exactly the same. I knocked on the door and Mom answered. When she saw me, her face went through a bunch of different expressions. Surprise, confusion, and finally annoyance. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "Hi, Mom. Happy Mother's Day." I held out the flowers. "I just wanted to see if we could talk and maybe work things out." She didn't take the flowers. Behind her, I could see Dad, Tobin, and Lida with their spouses. Lida had 2 little kids now who I'd never even met. I tried to step forward. "Can I come in?" Mom blocked the doorway. "You're not welcome here. Just accept that and leave." The door slammed in my face. I stood there for a few minutes with the flowers, feeling like an idiot. I'd really thought maybe enough time had passed that we could at least try to be civil. I drove back to my apartment and called Aunt Maris. "How did it go, sweetheart?" She wouldn't even let me in the door. "Oh honey, I'm so sorry. If they're going to treat you like that, then maybe you shouldn't keep trying to make peace with them." After that, I was done trying to reconcile with my family. Aunt Maris was right. If they were going to treat me like that, I shouldn't keep beating my head against the wall. But the rejection actually motivated me to do something I'd been thinking about for a while. With $9.2 million in my investment accounts, I was still living in a rented apartment. It was a nice place, but it wasn't mine. I decided it was time to buy my own house in the Willow Glen neighborhood. I called a realtor and told her exactly what I wanted. "I need a 3-bedroom house with a large backyard and a swimming pool." She showed me several options over the next few weeks. The house I fell in love with was in a great neighborhood, modern design, beautiful kitchen, huge master bedroom, and the backyard was perfect with a pool and plenty of space for entertaining. The asking price was $825,000. But I offered the full amount in cash. The seller accepted immediately and we closed within 3 weeks. Just like that, I was a homeowner. Moving day was exciting. I'd been accumulating furniture and decorations for years, waiting for the right place to put them. The house looked amazing once everything was set up. I called Aunt Maris to share the news. "Romalie, that's wonderful. I'm so proud of you." "Thanks. I was thinking of having a housewarming party. Would you like to come see the place?" "Love to." "Nay. Tell some of the other relatives. I know they'd want to see what you've accomplished." "Please do, but Aunt Maris, don't invite my parents or Tobin and Lida. I don't want them there." The housewarming party was set for 4 months after that terrible Mother's Day visit. I invited my friends from work, college buddies, and told Aunt Maris she could bring whichever relative she wanted. The day of the party arrived, and my house filled up with people. It felt amazing to have my own space and share it with people who actually cared about me. My cousins from my dad's side came, the ones who'd also inherited money from Grandma. They were walking through my house with their jaws on the floor. "Romalie, this place is incredible," my cousin Ward said. "I had no idea you were doing so well." "Thanks. I've been working hard and making some good investments." My cousin Noemi pulled me aside. "Can I ask you something? Your parents always told us you had problems with drinking and gambling. They said that's why the family doesn't talk to you anymore." I almost choked on my drink. "What? They've been saying for years that you're an alcoholic who wastes all her money gambling. Is that not true?" I was shocked. My parents had created this whole fake story about me to explain why we didn't talk. "Noemi, do I look like I have a drinking or gambling problem to you?" She looked around at my beautiful house, at me in my nice clothes, clearly healthy and successful. "No, you definitely don't." "So what really happened?" "It's complicated. Let's just say we had a disagreement about money and leave it at that." I didn't want to get into the whole inheritance drama at my own party. I just shrugged it off and tried to enjoy the evening. The party was going great. Everyone was having fun. The food was delicious. And people kept complimenting me on the house. I was feeling really good about my decision to cut ties with my toxic family and build my own life. Then there was a loud knock at my front door. I opened it and there they were. Mom, Dad, Tobin and Lita, all standing on my doorstep looking furious. "What the hell is this?" Mom demanded, pushing past me into the house. "Why didn't you invite us to your housewarming party?" "Because you wouldn't even let me into your house on Mother's Day. You slammed the door in my face, remember?" Dad was looking around the house with wide eyes. "How did you afford this place? That's none of your business." Mom started yelling. "You've been lying to us all these years. Pretending to be poor when you're obviously rich." The whole party had gone quiet. Everyone was staring at the scene my family was making. "The size of my bank account is not your concern," I said firmly. "I need you all to leave now." But Mom wasn't done. She spotted my relatives and marched over to them. "You need to talk sense into her," she told Ward and Noemi. "Romalie ran away from home and cut off all contact with us for no reason. She's being ridiculous." My cousins looked uncomfortable. They didn't know what to say. "I'm asking you one more time to leave my house," I said loudly. "If you don't go voluntarily, I'm calling the police." After they left, I turned to my guests with a big smile. "Sorry about that drama, everyone. Let's get this party back on track." Most people laughed and went back to enjoying themselves. But I could tell some of my relatives had questions. I didn't want to deal with it right then, so I just focused on being a good hostess. Later, after everyone had gone home, I sat in my beautiful living room thinking about what had just happened. My parents had been telling people I was an alcoholic gambler for 10 years. They'd made me out to be some kind of failure to justify cutting me off. But the minute they saw my house and realized I was successful, suddenly they wanted back in my life. It wasn't about love or family. It was about money. It had always been about money. The next morning my phone started ringing non-stop. I didn't answer any of the calls from my family, but they left voicemails and started sending text messages. Mom's message said, "We know you're a successful investor now. You need to share your money with your family." Lita wrote, "I have a mortgage I'm struggling with. You should help me pay it off." Tobin texted, "My car is falling apart and my wife is pregnant. I need money for a new car." I read all their messages and just shook my head. After 10 years of silence, the moment they found out I had money, they came crawling back with their hands out. I blocked all their phone numbers without responding to a single message. A week later, Aunt Maris called. "Romalie, your parents have been calling me non-stop, trying to get me to pressure you into talking to them. What did you tell them?" "I told them they had their chance when you showed up on Mother's Day with flowers. They blew it. I also told them I think they're only interested now because they found out you have money. You're absolutely right. I'm proud of you for not giving in to them, honey. You deserve so much better." After blocking my family's numbers, I thought that would be the end of it. But I was wrong. They weren't going to give up that easily. A few weeks later, I was coming home from work when I saw a familiar car parked outside my house. My parents were sitting in their old sedan waiting for me. I parked in my driveway and they immediately got out and approached me. "Romalie, we need to talk," Dad said. "No, we don't. I blocked your numbers for a reason." "Come on, honey," Mom said, trying to sound sweet. "We're family. We can work this out. We stopped being family 10 years ago when you kicked me out for not giving Lita my inheritance money. That was a long time ago," Dad said. "We all said things we didn't mean. You meant every word. And the only reason you're here now is because you found out I have money." Mom's fake smile disappeared. "So what if it is? You should be helping your family. That's what family does." Where was this family loyalty when I needed support starting my career? Where was it when I tried to visit on Mother's Day? They didn't have an answer for that. "Leave my property or I'm calling the police." They got back in their car, but I knew this wasn't over. The next week they showed up at my office. I was walking to my car after work when they appeared in the parking lot. Romilly, wait. Tobin called out. Turned around and saw all of them, Mom, Dad, Tobin and Lida, walking toward me. Are you kidding me right now? This is harassment. We just want to talk, Lida said. 5 minutes. I gave you 10 years to talk to me. You chose silence. Now it's my turn. We made a mistake, Mom said. We're sorry. Sorry for what exactly? Sorry for kicking me out. Sorry for ignoring me for 10 years. Sorry for spreading lies about me being an alcoholic gambler. Or are you just sorry that you found out I'm rich? They all looked uncomfortable. We heard about your investments, Dad said. You did really well for yourself. No thanks to any of you. Look, Tobin said. I know things got messed up before, but we're family. Families forgive each other. Families also support each other during hard times. They show up for important moments. They don't make up stories about each other. You people are strangers to me. Please, Romilly, Lida said. And I could tell she was trying not to cry. I'm really struggling with my mortgage payments. You could just help me out a little bit. And there it was. The real reason they were there. Let me get this straight. You didn't invite me to your wedding because I wouldn't give you money. You ignored me for 10 years. You told people I was a drunk and a gambler. But now you want me to help pay your mortgage. I was young and stupid. Lida said. I'm different now. You're exactly the same. The only thing that's different is that you need money. I started walking toward my car. If you don't leave me alone, I'm filing a restraining order against all of you. This is stalking and it needs to stop. That finally got through to them. They stopped following me and didn't show up anywhere else. But the damage was done. I'd been forced to relive all that old pain and anger. Took me a few weeks to get back to feeling normal again. The good news was that my life was going really well outside of the family drama. My investment portfolio kept growing and I'd started dating someone new. His name was Ezra and he was a software engineer I'd met through mutual friends. When I told him about my family situation, he was completely supportive. You don't owe them anything, he said. Just because someone is related to you doesn't give them the right to treat you badly and then expect you to bail them out financially. Sometimes I wonder if I'm being too harsh. Romilly, they kicked you out of the family over money. They ignored you for 10 years. They made up lies about you and now they only want you back because they found out you're successful. You're not being harsh. You're protecting yourself from toxic people. Ezra was right. I built a good life without them. And I wasn't going to let them mess it up. Now, I also started throwing regular parties at my house. Aunt Maris would come over with different relatives, and we'd have barbecues by the pool or dinner parties in my dining room. It was nice to have family relationships that were actually healthy and supportive. During one of these gatherings, my cousin Ward brought up the subject I'd been avoiding. Romilly, I have to tell you something. Your parents have been asking me about your parties. What do you mean? They found out from someone that you host these big gatherings. I shook my head. What did you tell him? I told him it wasn't my place to invite people to your house. If they wanted to come, they'd have to ask you themselves. And did they? Well, I think they know you'd say no. I was right about that. After everything they'd put me through, they had to know there was no way I'd welcome them back into my life just so they could enjoy my house and my success. Few months later I got unexpected news. Aunt Maris called me sounding upset. Romilly, I have something to tell you. Your father had a heart attack. My stomach dropped. Is he okay? He's in the hospital, but he's stable. It wasn't too severe. I sat there for a minute processing this information. Despite everything that had happened, he was still my father. Romilly, are you there? Yeah, I'm here. Thanks for telling me. Are you going to visit him? Thought about it. Part of me felt like I should, but another part remembered how they treated me. I don't think so. Aunt Maris, if they wanted me in their lives, they could have called any time in the past 10 years. We made mistakes, but we're family. This could be serious. You made choices. I'm living with the consequences of my choices, and you can live with the consequences of yours. Hung up. Ezra found me sitting in the kitchen afterwards staring at my phone. Everything okay? I told him about the He sat down next to me and took my hand. How are you feeling about it? Conflicted. Part of me thinks I should visit him, but another part of me remembers that they only call when they want something. What do you want to do? I want to protect myself from more hurt. They've made it clear over and over that they don't actually want a relationship with me. They want my money. Then trust your instincts. Dad recovered from his heart attack and life went back to normal. I didn't visit him in the hospital and I didn't feel guilty about it. I'd learned that you can't have a one-sided relationship even with family. 6 months later, I threw my biggest party yet for my 35th birthday. The house was packed with friends, colleagues, and relatives. Aunt Maris had invited some extended family members I hadn't seen in years, and everyone was having a great time. During the party, my cousin Noemi approached me with a strange look on her face. "Romalie, you're not going to believe this. I just got a text from your brother Tobin." "What kind of text?" "He wanted to know if I could take pictures of your party and send them to him. He said, your parents wanted to see how you were doing." I shook my head. Even now, they were still trying to keep tabs on me from a distance. "What did you tell him?" "I told him if they wanted to know how you were doing, they should call and ask you themselves." Good answer. Later that night, after all the guests had gone home, Ezra and I were cleaning up when he asked me something I'd been thinking about myself. "Do you ever regret cutting them off?" I considered the question seriously. "No, I don't. My life is so much better without their drama and manipulation. I have real relationships now with people who actually care about me. Even with everything that's happened, they're still your family. Being related to someone doesn't automatically make them family. Family is about love, support, and respect. These people in my life." Now I gestured around the house. "They're my real family." And that was the truth. Aunt Maris, my cousins, my friends, Ezra. These were the people who celebrated my successes without jealousy, who supported me during difficult times, and who loved me for who I was rather than what I could give them. My biological family had made their choice 10 years ago when they decided money was more important than relationships. I made my choice too. And I was living a happy, successful, peaceful life because of it. 3 years had passed since that disastrous housewarming party confrontation. And my parents had never stopped trying to find ways back into my life. But they'd never once apologized or acknowledged what they'd done wrong. They'd never asked about my life or shown genuine interest in who I'd become. It was always about what they could get from me. I was done feeling guilty about cutting them off. They'd made their choice 10 years ago and I'd made mine. Now I had to live with the consequences of that decision, which honestly had turned out pretty great for me. My investment portfolio had grown to over $14.2 million and I'd gotten another promotion at work. Ezra and I had moved in together and we were talking about getting engaged. My house had become the center of a wonderful social life. I hosted monthly dinner parties, holiday gatherings, and summer barbecues by the pool. Aunt Maris was always there along with my cousins and other relatives who'd become like real family to me. During one of these parties, Ward pulled me aside. "Romalie, I need to tell you something. Your parents have been asking me about your new phone number." "What do you mean?" "They've been calling around, trying to find you." I laughed. "Did you give it to them?" "Well, I told them I wouldn't. I hope they got the message." "Think they did. I haven't heard from them in a few weeks." "How are they doing financially? Are they struggling?" "I don't think so. Your dad still has his job and they own their house. They're not desperate or anything. They're just greedy." That confirmed what I'd suspected. This wasn't about them needing help. It was about them wanting a piece of my success after years of treating me like garbage. I was done feeling guilty about cutting them off. They'd made their choice 10 years ago and I'd made mine. Now I had to live with the consequences of that decision, which honestly had turned out pretty great for me. 2 years passed after my parents stopped harassing me, and they were honestly the best 2 years of my adult life. My investment portfolio had grown to over $14.2 million and I'd gotten another promotion at work. Ezra and I had moved in together and we were talking about getting engaged. My house had become the center of a wonderful social life. I hosted monthly dinner parties, holiday gatherings, and summer barbecues by the pool. Aunt Maris was always there along with my cousins and other relatives who'd become like real family to me. During one of these parties, Ward pulled me aside. "Romalie, I need to tell you something. Your parents have been asking me about your parties." "What do you mean?" "They found out from someone that you host these big gatherings." I shook my head. "What did you tell him?" "I told him it wasn't my place to invite people to your house. If they wanted to come, they'd have to ask you themselves." "And did they?" "Well, I think they know you'd say no." I was right about that. After everything they'd put me through, they had to know there was no way I'd welcome them back into my life just so they could enjoy my house and my success. I was right about that. After everything they'd put me through, they had to know there was no way I'd welcome them back into my life just so they could enjoy my house and my success. A few months later, Aunt Maris called with more updates about my parents. "They've been asking everyone in the family for your new phone number," she said. "I told them I wouldn't give it to them. But I hope they got the message." "Think they did. I haven't heard from them in a few weeks." "How are they doing financially? Are they struggling?" "I don't think so. Your dad still has his job and they own their house. They're not desperate or anything. They're just greedy." That confirmed what I'd suspected. This wasn't about them needing help. It was about them wanting a piece of my success after years of treating me like garbage. I was done feeling guilty about cutting them off. They'd made their choice 10 years ago and I'd made mine. Now I had to live with the consequences of that decision, which honestly had turned out pretty great for me. My house was filled with laughter, love, and genuine relationships. My career was thriving. My romantic life was happy and I had peace of mind.
Get your stuff and get out of my house. You can't do this!
"If you don't like living with us, you can leave," my sister said while she and her family lived in my house for free. I babysat her kids, paid the $1,500 bills. I slept at the hotel. In the morning I started packing their things. "Well, let's go. My name is Lenora. I'm 35 and I run a small design agency that specializes in house and apartment interiors. I rent a small office in a business center where a few of my employees work full-time, but I mostly work from home. I'm constantly traveling to job sites to check on projects, but my apartment is really my main workspace. 6 months ago, I finally bought my own place, a beautiful 3-bedroom apartment that I designed myself in my favorite minimalist style. Clean lines, neutral colors, everything perfectly organized. It was exactly what I wanted after years of renting. I have parents who are in their 60s and an older sister named Miranda. Miranda is married with 2 kids, an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. We've always gotten along okay, but we're not super close. Just a week ago, I threw a housewarming party to celebrate my new place. It was perfect. Lots of guests, great food, everyone loved the design. My parents came and Miranda brought her whole family. Everyone seemed to have a good time. Then this morning Miranda called me. "Hey Lenora, I need to ask you a favor. Our landlord is doing major repairs on our apartment. We need somewhere to stay for about a month." My heart sank a little. I'd been enjoying my peaceful new place. "Can't you stay with Mom and Dad? Their house is way too small for all 4 of us. Plus, it would take forever for me and Troy to get to work from there. Your place is perfect. 3 bedrooms, plenty of space. We'd only be there for 1 month, I promise." I really didn't want to do this. I'd gotten used to living alone, having my space exactly how I wanted it. But she was my sister, and it was only supposed to be a month. "Fine, but you can only bring the essentials. Leave most of your stuff at Mom and Dad's garage or put it in storage." "Course. Thank you so much, Lenora. You're saving our lives." 2 days later, a moving truck pulled up outside my building. I watched from my window as Miranda and her husband Troy started unloading box after box after box. When they got upstairs, my living room looked like a tornado had hit it. "Miranda, what is all this? I told you to bring just the essentials." "I know, but Mom and Dad don't have any room in their garage. And storage facilities are so expensive. We'll just keep everything neat and tidy." The boxes were stacked everywhere. My beautiful minimalist living room looked like a warehouse. "Where is everyone going to sleep?" "Well, I figured Troy and I could take the guest bedroom. The kids can have your bedroom since it's bigger, and you can use your office, right?" So, I moved a cot into my home office and gave up my bedroom to her kids. The guest bedroom went to Miranda and Troy. My perfectly organized space was completely disrupted. The first few days were rough, but I tried to be a good sport about it. The kids were loud. They'd come home from school and immediately start running around, yelling and fighting with each other. But I figured I could handle it for a month. Miranda worked part-time. She'd drop the kids off at school in the morning, work until about 2 p.m., then instead of coming home to take care of her own children, she'd go meet friends or go shopping. "Aunt Lenora, can you play with us?" The 8-year-old asked one afternoon while I was trying to work on a design proposal. "I'm working right now, sweetie. But we're bored. Mom said you'd watch us." "Aunt Lenora, I'm hungry," the 6-year-old whined. The first few times I made them snacks. Sandwiches, fruit, whatever I had around. But after a week of this, I was exhausted. "You guys are old enough to make your own sandwiches. The stuff is in the kitchen." A few days later, Miranda cornered me. "Lenora, why are my kids eating nothing but peanut butter sandwiches all day?" "Because I'm trying to work and they said they were hungry." "But you're home all day, Lenora." "My home is my office. This is where I work. I have deadlines and clients and site visits." "Well, what am I supposed to do with the kids?" "I don't know. Maybe take care of them yourself instead of going out with friends every day." She didn't like that answer. The situation got even worse when I had to go inspect a job site that was 2 hours away. I told Miranda the night before that I'd be gone all day. The next morning, as I was getting ready to leave, she started freaking out. "You can't leave. What am I supposed to do with the kids?" "Take care of them. They're your kids." "But I have plans to meet Lisa for brunch." "Then cancel your plans." "That's not fair. You're being selfish." "Miranda, I'm going to work. You know, the thing that pays for this apartment you're staying in for free." She threw a complete tantrum, but I left anyway. I had a job to do. When I got home that evening, I found my parents sitting in my living room watching TV at full volume. Both my mom and dad are a little deaf, so they always have the volume cranked up. The kids were running around screaming. My parents were yelling at the TV, and Miranda was on the phone with someone, laughing loudly. "Hi, Dad. What are you doing here?" Miranda called us. "Mom said she needed someone to watch the kids since you abandoned them." "Abandoned them, right? I went to work." "Well, we're here now. Don't worry about dinner. I cooked. That was actually nice. Mom had made a big pot roast with all the sides. It was the first decent meal I'd had in days. But now, instead of just dealing with Miranda's family, I had my parents coming over every day to babysit. The noise level in my apartment went from bad to absolutely insane. Every afternoon it was chaos. Kids screaming, TV blaring, Miranda chatting on the phone, my parents talking loudly to each other. I couldn't concentrate on anything. The only upside was that Mom cooked dinner every night, which was actually really helpful. Saturday morning I had to drive out to check on a renovation project about an hour away. It was a big job, a complete kitchen remodel, and I needed to make sure everything was progressing on schedule. When I got home that evening, I could hear noise coming from my backyard before I even got to my front door. Loud voices, music, the sound of people having a party. I walked through my apartment and looked out the back window. My parents had set up a full barbecue in my backyard. There were at least 15 people out there, relatives, neighbors, people I didn't even recognize. They were using my patio furniture, my grill, and from what I could see, they'd gone through all the groceries I just bought yesterday. I stood there for a minute trying to process what I was seeing. They'd thrown a party in my backyard without asking me. I went outside with a smile on my face. No point in making a scene in front of all these people. "Hey everyone, having a good time?" "Lenora, we decided to have a little barbecue. Hope you don't mind," my dad called out. I minded a lot, but I wasn't going to embarrass myself in front of a bunch of people. "No problem. Looks like you found everything you needed." The party went on for another 2 hours. I stayed inside trying to work on some design plans, but it was impossible to concentrate with all the noise. Finally, around 10 p.m., the last guests left. My parents were packing up their things to go home. "Mom, Dad, can you help me clean up out here?" My mom looked exhausted. "Oh honey, I'm so tired. It's been a long day. We really need to get home." And just like that, they left. Miranda had disappeared into her room with Troy and the kids. I spent the next 2 hours cleaning up beer bottles, paper plates, food scraps, and cigarette butts. My beautiful backyard looked like a disaster zone. The next day was Sunday, and my parents showed up again around noon. "We're here to watch the kids while Miranda goes grocery shopping," Mom announced. "Actually, I need to talk to you about yesterday. You can't throw parties in my house without asking me first." Dad looked offended. "Oh, come on, Lenora. We were just having a little fun. You're such a loner. Sometimes you need some cheerful company around here." "I don't want any more parties here." "You're being ridiculous," Mom said. Miranda came out of her room. "What's going on?" "I'm telling Mom and Dad no more parties in my house." "Lenora, they're just trying to have a good time. You're being really uptight about this." "It's my house, Miranda. And speaking of which, your month is almost up. When exactly are you moving back to your apartment?" Miranda got really quiet. Troy suddenly found something very interesting to look at on his phone. "Well, the thing is, we gave up the apartment. The rent was going to be really high after the renovation. We decided it wasn't worth it. We're looking for somewhere else to live." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "When were you planning on telling me this?" "I'm telling you now. Look, if we stay here for a couple more months, it's not a big deal, right?" My parents were nodding along like this was perfectly reasonable. "Miranda, you told me 1 month. 1 month. Plans change, Lenora. That's life." I went to my office and grabbed my laptop. I called my friend Carter, who's a real estate agent. "Carter, I need you to send me rental listings for 2-bedroom apartments in the area where my sister used to live right now." "Sure, Lenora, give me 10 minutes. I went back to the living room where everyone was staring at me. "What are you doing?" Miranda asked. "Getting you apartment listings." My phone dinged with an email from Carter. I forwarded it to Miranda's phone. 23 available apartments in your old neighborhood. Start calling. "Lenora, you're being crazy." "Or family. Family doesn't lie about how long they're staying. Family doesn't throw parties without permission. Family doesn't expect me to be a free babysitter while you go hang out with friends." My parents looked uncomfortable. Dad cleared his throat. "Maybe we should go home today. Let you all work this out." After they left, Miranda and Troy went into their room and stayed there for the rest of the day. I could hear them arguing through the walls. A week later, I got my utility bills in the mail. My electric bill was usually around $120. This month it was $315. My water bill went from $50 to $110. My gas bill tripled. Then I calculated how much I'd spent on groceries. Usually about $250 a month for just me. Last month, I'd spent $950. And that didn't even include all the stuff my parents had used for their barbecue. That evening at dinner, I made an announcement. "I've been looking at the bills. If you're not moving out next month, we need to make some new arrangements. You'll pay me $1,200 a month rent plus half of all grocery costs." Miranda nearly choked on her food. $1,200. Are you insane? That's what it costs to house 4 extra people. "We're not paying you rent," Troy said. "Or family." "Fine. Then you have exactly 2 weeks to find somewhere else to live. After that, I'm changing the locks." They stormed off to their room and slammed the door. The next day, my parents showed up and immediately started yelling at me. "You can't throw your sister out on the street," Mom said. "She's not on the street. She has options. She's just choosing not to take them. You're being cruel." "I'm being reasonable. This is my house and I get to decide who lives here. We raised you better than this. You raised me to stand up for myself. That's what I'm doing." They left in a huff, clearly expecting me to change my mind. For the next few days, neither Miranda nor Troy spoke to me. Fine by me. At least the house was quieter. Then I had to go out of town for 3 days to oversee a project in another city. It was a big commercial job that required my full attention. When I got home Thursday night, I could hear music and voices before I even got out of my car. I walked into my apartment to find about 20 people having a full-blown party in my living room. What the hell is going on? Everyone needs to leave now. Miranda was clearly drunk. She stumbled over to me with a big smile. "Oh, come on. Don't be such a party pooper. This is my house and I want everyone out. If you don't like it, you can leave, Miranda slurred. The whole room turned to look at me. A bunch of strangers in my own home telling me to get out. Yeah, this is our place now, some guy I'd never seen before yelled. Get lost. Everyone started laughing and cheering him on. I could have called the police right then. But I didn't want to escalate things in front of all these drunk people. I grabbed my purse and left. I drove to a hotel and got a room for the night. When I came back the next morning, the house was empty. There was trash everywhere. Beer bottles, food spilled on my furniture, cigarette burns on my coffee table. I spent the entire morning packing Miranda's stuff into boxes and suitcases. Everything they'd brought when they moved in, plus all the junk they'd accumulated over the past month and a half. I was methodical about it. Clothes folded neatly, kids' toys sorted, everything organized just like I would for a client. Around noon I heard keys in the door. Miranda walked in with the kids, probably coming back from some errands. She saw the packed suitcases and boxes lined up by the door. Lenora, what are you doing? You can't kick us out. We have nowhere to go. You should have thought of that before you threw a party in my house and told me to leave. You have 2 weeks to find somewhere else to live, just like I told you. The kids were looking back and forth between us, confused and scared. I felt bad for them, but this wasn't their fault. Please, Lenora. Sorry. It won't happen again. You're right. It won't happen again because you won't be living here. She kept crying, but I'd made up my mind. The tears weren't going to work on me this time. An hour later, my parents called. I could hear them yelling through the phone before I even answered. How dare you throw your sister out? Mom screamed. I hung up on them. They called back 5 more times. I didn't answer. For the rest of that week, nobody spoke to me. Miranda and Troy avoided me completely. The kids stayed quiet, and my parents didn't come over to babysit. Honestly, it was the most peaceful my house had been in over a month. The following Wednesday, I had to go inspect another project about 3 hours away. It was a high-end condo renovation that one of my biggest clients was doing, and I needed to make sure the tile work was being done correctly. When I got home around 10 p.m., the house was completely empty. All of Miranda's boxes and suitcases were gone. The kids' toys, Troy's clothes, everything. They'd cleared out while I was gone. I walked through my apartment in amazement. My living room looked like my living room again. My bedroom was my bedroom. My office was just my office, not someone's makeshift bedroom. They hadn't left a note. They hadn't said goodbye. They definitely hadn't left any money to cover the extra utilities or groceries. But honestly, I didn't care. I was just relieved to have my space back. I spent the weekend deep cleaning everything. I shampooed the carpets, scrubbed the bathrooms, reorganized all my furniture back to where I wanted it. By Sunday night, my apartment looked exactly like it had before they moved in. For the next 2 months, I didn't hear from any of them. Not Miranda, not Troy, not my parents. It was like they had all decided to pretend I didn't exist. I threw myself into work. I landed 2 new big projects, hired another employee, and even started looking into expanding my office space. Without the constant chaos and interruption, I was more productive than I'd been in months. Then one Saturday morning there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole and saw my mom standing there with a pie dish in her hands. Opened the door. Hi, sweetheart. She handed me the pie. Your favorite strawberry rhubarb. I set it on the kitchen counter. What's going on, Mom? She sat down on my couch and looked around the apartment. Lenora, we owe you an apology. We kicked Miranda and her family out of our house 2 weeks ago. That surprised me. You kicked them out. We couldn't take it anymore. Miranda would drop the kids off with us every morning and then disappear for hours. She'd go meet friends, go shopping, whatever. She never helped around the house, never bought groceries, never cooked meals. Sounds familiar. She left us to take care of her children while she did whatever she wanted. And Troy wasn't much better. He'd come home from work and just sit on our couch watching TV. How long did they stay with you? 2 months. 2 months of chaos. The kids running around screaming. Miranda on the phone all day. Troy eating all our food and never replacing it. What about the bills? Double just like yours did. We even had to put groceries on your father's credit card because we couldn't keep up with feeding 4 extra people. He nodded. So, you understand now why I couldn't let them stay here indefinitely. We understand completely. You were right to set boundaries. We should have supported you instead of taking their side. Where are they living now? They found a small apartment across town. 2 bedrooms. Miranda's been complaining about how cramped it is and how the neighborhood isn't as nice as yours. She'll adjust. We hope so. Lenora, your father and I are really sorry. We should have listened to you from the beginning. I looked at my mom. She looked older somehow, more tired. Taking care of Miranda's family had clearly worn her out. I appreciate the apology, Mom. Really do. So we can be a family again. Of course, but I need you to understand that my house is my house. No more assuming you can throw parties here or make decisions about who stays over. Absolutely. We completely understand now. And what about Miranda? Mom's face fell a little. She's still angry with you. She blames you for their housing problems. Says you forced them into a bad situation. Mom, she lied to me about giving up their apartment. She left me to babysit her kids while she went out with friends. She threw a party in my house and told me to leave. I know, sweetheart. No. She's not ready to take responsibility for her actions yet. We talked for another hour. Mom filled me in on family news, asked about my work, acted like a normal mom for the first time in months. When she got up to leave, she hugged me tight. We missed you, Lenora. The house felt empty without you coming around. I missed you too, Mom. After she left, I sat in my quiet, clean apartment and ate a piece of strawberry rhubarb pie. It tasted exactly like childhood, sweet and tart and full of memories. I was glad to have my parents back in my life, but I was even more glad that I'd stood my ground and refused to let my family take advantage of me. After that, things slowly started getting back to normal. My parents began coming over for Sunday dinners again, just like we used to do before the whole Miranda situation exploded. It felt good to have that relationship back. They never brought up Miranda during those visits, and neither did I. It was like an unspoken agreement that we just focus on rebuilding our own relationship without getting into all that drama. My work was going better than ever without the constant interruptions and chaos. I was able to take on bigger projects. I signed a contract to design the interiors for a whole apartment complex, 12 units total. It was the biggest job I'd ever landed. I also started dating someone new. His name was Ethan and he was a contractor I'd worked with on a few projects. We'd grabbed dinner after site visits and eventually it turned into something more. When I told him about the whole situation with Miranda, he just shook his head. You did the right thing. I've seen too many people let family members take advantage of them financially. Sometimes I wonder if I was too harsh, I said. They lied to you about how long they'd stay. They doubled your bills. They left you to babysit while your sister went out with friends. And then they threw a party and told you to get out of your own home. You weren't harsh. You were protecting yourself. He was right, but it still felt weird not having any contact with my sister. About 6 months after Mom's visit, I was at the grocery store when I ran into Troy. He looked uncomfortable when he saw me. Hey, Lenora. Hi, Troy. How's everyone doing? We're okay. The new apartment is smaller than we'd like, but we're managing. Listen, I wanted to say something. I know things got really out of hand when we were staying with you. Fine, Troy. No, it's not fine. Miranda and I should have been more considerate. We took advantage of your generosity. That was the first real apology I'd gotten from anyone in their family. I appreciate you saying that. The kids ask about you sometimes. They miss their Aunt Lenora. That hit me harder than I expected. I miss them too. Maybe someday we can all work things out. Maybe. But I knew that wouldn't happen unless Miranda was willing to admit she'd been wrong. And from what my parents told me, she was still blaming me for everything. A year passed. My business kept growing. Ethan and I got engaged. And I bought a small vacation condo at the beach. Life was really good. Then one day my mom called with news. Lenora, Miranda and Troy are getting divorced. What? Why? I'm not sure about all the details, but it sounds like money problems. Troy got tired of Miranda's spending and her refusal to take responsibility for anything. Where are the kids going to live? With Troy. Miranda moved in with some friend across town. She works half-time at a retail store. Same as before. I felt bad for the kids, but I couldn't say I was surprised. Miranda had never been good at managing money or taking responsibility for her actions. Has she asked you and Dad for help? She tried to move back in with us, but we said no. We learned our lesson. Good for you, Mom. She's been calling all the relatives trying to find someone to take her in. So far, no luck. I wasn't surprised about that either. Word had probably gotten around about what happened when she stayed with me and then with my parents. She hasn't asked me for help. She's too proud. She still thinks you ruined her life by kicking her out. Mom, her landlord doing repairs wasn't my fault. Her giving up her apartment without telling me wasn't my fault. Her leaving me to babysit while she went out with friends wasn't my fault. I know, sweetheart. We all know that now. Another 6 months passed. Ethan and I had our wedding at a small venue by the lake. It was perfect. About 50 people, beautiful weather, great food. My parents came and seemed genuinely happy for me. Miranda wasn't invited, obviously. But my parents said she probably wouldn't have come anyway. She was apparently still bitter about everything and convinced that I had somehow sabotaged her marriage and her housing situation. During the reception, my dad pulled me aside. I'm proud of you, Lenora. You built a good life for yourself. Thanks, Dad. And I'm sorry it took us so long to see that Miranda was taking advantage of everyone around her. You were just trying to help your sister. We were enabling her. There's a difference. He was right. They'd spent years bailing Miranda out of every problem she created, never making her face the consequences of her choices. When she finally had to deal with real life on her own, she couldn't handle it. Now, 2 years after the whole mess started, I was sitting in my beautiful, peaceful apartment with my husband, running a successful business, and maintaining healthy relationships with the family members who actually respected me. My phone buzzed with a text from my mom. Miranda got evicted from her friend's place. She's asking if she can stay with us again. I texted back, "What did you tell her?" We said no. We're too old for that kind of chaos. I set my phone down and looked around my living room. Clean, organized, quiet, exactly how I liked it. Sometimes people think that cutting off family members makes you a bad person. But I'd learned that you can't help people who don't want to be helped. And you can't maintain relationships with people who only see you as a resource to exploit. Miranda made her choices and I made mine. I chose to protect my peace of mind, my home, and my financial stability. And I'd never regretted that decision. Some families are toxic even when they're related to you by blood. The family you choose, the people who respect your boundaries and support your success, those are the relationships worth maintaining. I was living proof that you could be happy and successful without enabling other people's dysfunction, even when those people happen to be your relatives.